What's good with the YouTube? You already know Big Flacco with a convict's perspective, and I'm gonna smash, dash, and slide on through that little bit of energy. What's cracking, people? So check this out, man. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff you can to help support the channel. Let's keep on pushing forward. And let me remind everybody, man, today we're having that cash raffle tonight, man. Get your entries, man. I'm gonna put a post up after this video. So we're gonna be talking about something that happened back then in the 70s and 80s, right? There was what you call a civil war that started to brew in the late 70s. It all started off with a situation with a guy from Watsonville who caught up a case. He was supposed to get bailed out. Individual named Pilo was supposed to bail him out. I don't know if he took the money and went partied with it or what. Pilo from Salinas he's pretty well known. And so what ended up happening is the individual that was supposed to get bailed out ended up going to prison on a violation, was very upset about it. Because at that time, if you caught a violation, or if you got caught up and got arrested, you could get bailed out on a weekend before your parole officer could find out. So when this individual got back to prison, he came in contact with an individual carnal named Ezekiel Lopez Conejo, right? From Gilroy. He basically ran everything down, and it started to raise questions to where was the money going? Why weren't carnales being taken care of, right? So from there, at that time, man, it kind of opened up an investigation for impeachment. There was a lot of mistruths, and there was a lot of truths in this impeachment process. Even Fig told me that he had talked to Cornell and said, look, if we go by the book and everything is as you think it is through an investigation, that he'll support it. But it has to be done by the Constitution. Now, at that time, what it started to unfold was Death Row Joe was indicted, Babu was indicted, Fig was indicted, Perico, all top leadership, with a bunch of murders, right? And this spread them out, and the communication was kind of limited at that time. And this is where everything started to evolve as far as the rumblings, as far as the impeaching Babu. And like I said before, they had 6 individuals that were under investigation to go through a process to see what was really going on. And so what ended up occurring is this is how Black Bob ended up being able to take the reins. He was perfect place, perfect time, and it was very charismatic and was able to get those to pretty much fall in line. He had more of the younger carnales that they had pulled were lining up with him. People like Tibbs, Corny, Pinky, and then a couple OGs like Hobo. There was a couple killings that ended up occurring within the NF at that time, and there was a split. There wasn't no NF1 or NF2. If anything, that would have been CDC label in that. There was just one NF, and they were vying for power. And the reasons why I believe Black Bob became victorious in this war was based upon the fact that the indictments put Bob in a position to where he couldn't really plead his case fair and just. And Death Row Joe flipping, and Death Row Joe, the things he did beforehand, as far as getting donations from other carnales after he had already embezzled so much money, right, to take care of his wife and to take care of his case. That's what his whole focal point was. He hoped to get out one day. Okay, so in the aftermath of that, there was a lot of people who did not know what to do. Okay, especially when T-Bone got killed. T-Bone got killed by Corny and someone else. They ended up putting a rod through his fucking head. Now, T-Bone also went by Southern Boy, okay, who was not an MA. He was actually NF. He was actually a captain. So as this was going on, they became victorious, okay? They offered the reentry for those who may have fell out of favor based upon this split, which made sense because there was a lot of people who did not know what to do. Now, one of those individuals that had fell out of favor during this process was an individual named Cricket Gabriel from Salinas. Okay, you probably know him as Ernie Gabriel, Little Ernie, and that was Manos Gabriel. Both well-established carnales who did not fall out of favor during the split. They were still lined with Black Bob. They actually were in control of DVI at that time. You had the Folsom Six with Pinky, Corny, Brown Bob, Wolfie, I think Mansanas and Black Bob were the leadership over there because they all got moved to Folsom at that time. That's where the bonds and formats were drafted and stuff. And you had the Gabriels that were still in charge of Salinas along with Hobo, Glenn Holden. Okay. Now, what started to occur at this point was, some people came back. Very few that were recognized today. The one who we do know for certain who did make it back was an individual, like I said, Cricket Gabriel. His brothers had been long time carnales. He'd been a carnal for a long time. Okay. And Salinas had his back. And see, that was a big issue regarding this thing. And people were making issues saying that Salinas was having favoritism, such as in DVI at that time with the Gabriel brothers, Cricket being able to come back. And so there was a lot of carnales that were from outside the areas that took issue with Gabriel coming back. And my whole point about when I hear all this, right, is I hear a lot of good things about fucking Cricket, man. Even Cricket got the way he got deemed no good. We're going to talk about that in a second. Was if you're going to offer the carnales who fell out of favor based upon this split and they want to return, why even offer it if you're going to have an issue with it? So there were some carnales that had a huge issue because they felt that some of them took cowardice ways of dealing with it instead of doing what they felt was right. Okay. So for years, he went through a lot of turmoil based upon that, man. And, there was also hidden rumors that were going on that, Salinas is showing too much favoritism. And that's been a trend that's happened over and over again, is when certain areas have a more base for members being recruited or members recruiting people from their town, you start to hear the term favoritism. And so the thing is that Cricket was a good dude. And all he did from the beginning was he didn't know where to stand on that issue because it was so much stuff going on. If you're presented with it, what do you do? I mean, I can't imagine being put in a situation like that. That's like having the feds and state all together in one fucking yard and you're trying to figure it out. That's how it was working. You know what I'm saying? We know the story about Pinky and Chino trying to fucking take out fucking Fig and Sundown getting shot. And it was like that back then. There was blood being shed, and these were carnales and brothers that you'd known for a long time. And so when you see that and experience that, I can only imagine what he may have been going through. He ended up coming back, though. And eventually, due to a lot of turmoil and a lot of hidden animosity that some individuals had, there was a lot of people who wanted him expelled from the organization, which, expulsion means you've been pretty much deemed and there's no comeback. And they ended up trying to move on him. I believe they tried to move on him, or they were going to attempt to move on him, because that's one of the charges that was filed in Operation Black Widow against Corny. Corny was the one that put the green light on him, or allegedly put the green light. Let me rephrase that. And a lot of people felt that was from a long astounding issue that Corny and others may have had because he was brought back, and they felt that he was brought back only because of his brothers. I don't know all the intricate details, but like I said, there's always a power struggle within these members of the organization. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's low-ranking members or up at the tops, and not everybody is privy to that information. But it is a fact that he was had the attempted murder, the conspiracy to commit murder against him was filed against Corny. And so that it's kind of interesting how, you could have a long, extensive career and try to make the best decision, and yet the organization could still turn on you. Now, I don't know what grounds they filed for to have him deemed, but it's a little bit different when they move on their own. You get what I'm saying? It's like one thing is for people to not misappropriation of funds. That's the most common thing you hear is misappropriation of funds, of why someone gets deemed either misappropriation of funds or abuse of authority. Not acknowledging the brass leadership, going outside the rim of their authority and benefiting and generating something for it. You know what I'm saying? So people get jealous, real jealous. And with Cricket, man, I think Cricket, from what I hear, was really, really old school, man. And he wasn't worried about, being recognized or having the rank or authority or whatnot. He knew where he stood within the O, and he kept on pushing. There was a lot of other individuals that were out there affiliated with him, like Hank and whatnot. I mean, there was an issue when they went up in there one time because there was dope missing in a fucking in a bar that the NF had out there in Salinas, and I think it was Hank or Pilo or one of these individuals, Big Smiley. All these dudes were affiliated at that time, and before they were going to kill one of their own, they found the fucking dope, man. You know what I'm saying? So there was always a lot of stuff going on out there in Salinas, but there was a lot of backing from the brothers out there. This is before like Pocky or Mateo and all these individuals that during my era were recognized. You had like people like Bilo, MC, Black Jess, Hank. All these carnales were pretty much a very strong united front for Salinas. And therefore, they defended each other on a lot of issues and stuff, man. And that was one of the issues that kept on coming out from other carnals, is that there was too much favoritism. I think they had at least 1, 2, 3. Stork, Rock, Chispas. They had at least 3 and Tex. They had 4 of the 13 highest positions already filled, and they were from Salinas. I think after that you had a boxer from Selma, Goneo from Sakura or LA, Tibbs, Hanford, San Jose, however you want to call it, Corny from Woodland. Who else was holding position at that time? Huete, Huerito. So from Los Baños. So Salinas had a very strong core even within brass. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like how it is today. Look how many high-ranking carnales they have now. And the same thing. Salinas always gets kind of accused of showing favoritism when it's just that they produced a lot of good, solid dudes. And I think that's what was working against Cricket when he was deemed. Maybe there's more details I don't know, but I do know that he was one of very few that came back on the reentry program. I don't really know of anybody else, but I heard that there was a few. But it's funny because in the history, when they put it out there to the Northerners and Norteños, they put it out there in a way that, no one ever made it back. No, he was one that made it back. He was deemed no good sometime in the 90s, and that's just how prison politics play, and you're going through the same shit now, kind of what's going on with the state and feds a little bit. Not to touch on their current issues, but look at the pattern, look at the similarities. Look at the stuff before Operation Black Widow as well. That was another power struggle that was going on between Tex and Cuete, and then afterwards you had Goneo up there, you know what I'm saying, kind of trying to stir the pot with other groups and other RCs at other institutions, so this is just the way life is, man, when you're living that life, man. And it just goes to show, like, those that are so worried about obtaining status, you got to understand what comes with that, the politicking, the false accusations. You're going to have to endure a lot. And this is like on a high level, it's like having to bounce off trolls on a day-to-day basis and stuff, because you never know who's filing what report on you, man. Everybody's telling on each other. And what I mean by that is they're telling on each other within, you know what I'm saying, trying to make each other look, either make themselves look better or make someone else look worse. And that's how they can kind of ascend through the ranks. You know what I'm saying? That producing money, showing responsibility, and doing those kills. Hey, they're always going to recognize that, man. And it's just unfortunate that you had a lot of dudes that were longtime members. MC was another one. That's 5 they had. Excuse me. They had 5 out of 13. 5 out of 13 people were from fucking Salinas that were sitting brass members. That's a trip. That's a trip, though. And with that, what do you think comes? Hate. Because whether people want to admit it or not, there is at times favoritism. You know what I'm saying? And it's not supposed to exist, but I'm going to keep it 100. I've seen it where it does exist, and it's kind of understandable, because if you know another carnal or bro that's from your area and you guys have a working rapport and you don't know this about the 2 or you bumped heads, you're always going to fucking align with where you feel comfortable. And it's always going to be those from your hometown, Anyways, the Civil War ended probably about 1981, 82. And that's when the structure started to get pushed out. The bonds and formats were drafted, and new implementations came about, and the employment of undercover carnals was still going around. You know, it also gave birth to a lot more dropouts and undercovers that were out there on these yards. You know, that were the after effects of this civil war. And I don't even call it a civil war; I call it an internal war. You know, because it was just those who felt change was needed based upon certain acts, and it was those that felt that regardless if change was needed, it had to be done the right way, which was through the Constitution to make any type of amendments, go through a process of a vote. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the spill. This is Big Flacco, Convict's Perspective. I'm gonna drop a couple more videos today, man. I'm gonna get on it, man. So I got to catch up for this weekend. You guys have a good one.